Hello everyone, my name is Ben and welcome back to PASSTHEauxCORD, a channel where I am a very sleepy, cozy, sleepy, tired boy, man, cozy, sleepy boy. But it's okay, because
sleep is for the weak.
And I need to listen to music. So today I am taking a look at the Flaming Lips for the first time. I don't know of any music by them that I'm aware of. It's very possible with their popularity that I have heard some of their stuff, but like I said, not that I am aware of. And I have gotten suggestions to cover their music in the past, of course, and one suggestion in particular that I got, and I'm not sure of your username, but thank you, of course, is the Soft Bulletin. Someone was very enthusiastic about liking this album. It's their 1999 release. It's kind of just right in the middle of everything as far as I'm aware. I believe they were making quite a bit of music before and after that, if I'm not incorrect. But either way, time to get into this one with track number 1, Race for the Prize. Okay, a very bright sounding start to this. Really liking the mixing going on here. There's very separated parts, sounding kind of whimsical and very bright once again. Is there 2 different vocalists on here? I feel like there is. The synth work and the drumming on this track are just really nice on the ears. I didn't even think about, wow, this is weirdly relevant. Damn. Okay. Very nice fade off into the next track here. Okay, so from what I can tell, that is a track about the pharmaceutical industry and the race to find a cure for a certain sickness, ailment, disease, whatever have you, and how you will have rivaling scientists in a race to get their product to market approved and everything before the others so that they can make the most money off of it. Kind of diving into the mentality of this is something horrible happening to people and somebody ends up profiting off of it. And if that's not relevant to the world we're living in right now, I don't know what is, man. Clearly everything they have talked about on this track is holding true in the modern age, with the pandemic going on, of course. And it's been very talked about. Not only is, of course, this very situation happening where pharmaceutical companies are trying to get their cure, treatment, whatever it may be, to market in order to be the heroes who save everyone from the pandemic, but really in that make tons of profit, but also even with companies who are providing things like supplies and cleaners and just regular things you would use to treat like flu and other things like that, making tons of money right now because of this terrible thing that's going on that we all have to deal with. So very smart track. That wasn't necessarily a topic I was expecting to be in discussion of today in particular, but it's here. That's cool and everything. Very much so a relevant track to the world we live in today. Also, a couple things that I didn't mention. This is going to be broken down into 2 parts. Of course, you've probably seen that in the title already, but it is almost an hour in length, and this is the 2017 remastered. I figured I may as well give my first impressions on the better sounding version. So I know there's sometimes controversy over what version is better, but since I'm brand new to this album, it's not like I'm not going to like the changes. I haven't heard the original version. I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb and assume that the remaster is better. And I also can't talk because not only am I tired, I'm congested. Lovely. A spoonful weighs a ton is the name of the next song. Some more very nice keys on this track already.
They rescued everyone or none. Being drunk on their plan.
Okay, that sounded pretty cool. I'm liking the switch up. It was very subtle before this. Not that that's a bad thing, but you know. I'm not sure how much I dig the vocals on that refrain part especially, but that is very peaceful. Okay, so interpretation-wise, there's a few different things that people are saying about this song. One guy here thinks it's about the creation of the atom bomb. The main, like, actual bio here, which isn't, of course, verified or anything, it's just one person's interpretation, says that this is about the concept of density in certain celestial bodies, such as a neutron star being so compact that a minuscule amount could weigh hundreds of thousands of pounds. Which, sure, in a literal sense, that does make sense, but I don't really see anything else pointing to that other than literally a spoonful would weigh a ton. But I think that it goes a little bit deeper than that. I also don't necessarily know if I back the interpretation of this being about the creation of the atom bomb, because that's kind of the direct opposite of this, in that nothing in the literal sense would make any kind of sense. I happen to believe that this is probably just a continuation of the narrative we were seeing on the previous track about the pharmaceutical industry and a set of scientists trying to find this cure. And this has a very peaceful sound to it and has a somewhat victorious tone, I guess you could say. It's something where I would guess that this is talking about the cure that they found. Now, what would make sense is that a spoonful would weigh a ton, in that it's a small amount of something, but you can make more of that and it's going to have a huge impact. The weight of it isn't like a literal sense of actual measurable weight. It means impact or importance. At least that's what I'm getting from it. You know, I could be wrong. But either way, very peaceful sounding track, somewhat, like I said, victorious sounding almost, feels like a victory lap, but also just felt calming and very serene. And so far, this album in and of itself has this level of tranquility that's exemplified by another side of it that is a little bit more loud, kind of experimental, very different, in that it doesn't all just sound very subtle and relaxing. It's got other things going on in the mix too that make it a little bit more interesting than that. So that does keep me very captivated through these first two songs that we've heard. And I'm kind of excited to see where this story goes, if it is something where we kind of follow a similar set of scenarios. The Spark That Bled is the name of the next song. And in parentheses it says the softest bullet ever shot. However, it doesn't say that on Spotify, so I'm not really sure what the official version of the song title is. We're just gonna write the Spark That Bled, because that'll fit on the screen though. Actually, like, all of these have parentheses. I don't know what those are for. They're just kind of there. Wow, one of these titles is extremely long if you look at the parentheses. I don't know what to tell you as far as that goes. We're just going to go by the short names. Now that I've rambled enough, the Spark That Bled, let's go. Kicking it off with some very mellow strings. Nice. I mean, I follow what he's saying, but it also doesn't make any sense. People are saying he might have got shot by a Nerf gun. I don't know. Yeah. That chorus doesn't move at the rhythm that I'm expecting it to, like, ever. The song itself kind of has this weird quality to it. It's like slightly off rhythm or something. Oh nice, got some drumming in here. Man. Beautiful little sounds going on there. It's amazing.
And noticed that I had been bleeding.
Okay. Wow, and I also didn't realize that this was almost 6 minutes at all until I looked at the length of that. That kept me very engaged for what it was. Like, I understand that this has a much more mellow and relaxed tone and sound to it, but it's not anything that just takes away from the listening experience at all. It is just somewhat subtle. It's still very interesting to listen to. There's a lot going on. It switches up quite a bit. A somewhat mellow vibe, though. I've heard far more densely packed songs that were 6 minutes in length that were far less interesting than that. Okay, so reading over the lyrics and looking over some annotations that people have put on here, this song is apparently about having a brilliant idea, and I guess that makes sense in that something hit him and then he didn't even realize that whatever it was caused enough of an impact to make his head bleed, but he didn't even realize it was there until he was doing a head rub or something to that degree, which of course, you know, you've got thinking poses, so that would also add to that. And our narrator here has a lot of excitement all the way through the track, saying, I stood up and said, yeah, or whatever, you know. It's very excited, anticipating the creation of this idea that he had and how great it's going to turn out and everything. But then the song ends on verse 3, and he says, and that's too bad, because in reality there was no reaction, meaning that something didn't pan out. Maybe he lost his train of thought, something didn't go right, and he's got to go back to the drawing board, essentially. And that wraps back around really nicely with the outro being the same words that were said on the first verse on the song. So, really this song in and of itself is a song about ideas, and it's got a very cool idea to it. It's kind of meta. Neat, I guess. Also, this does kind of tie into the two previous tracks, depending on how you look at it, because those are scientists trying to have a breakthrough of some sort in order to solve a problem. It seems like a lot of this album focuses around having revolutionary ideas that will change the world around you and make you successful, and then how those end up panning out in the long run, or something to that degree. I mean, I feel like I'm picking up on a theme here. The Spiderbite Song is the name of the next song. Alright. That's sounding interesting. And it is already dramatically switched up. Very interesting.
I thought we the baby
Hold on, what? Okay. I guess this is completely literal.
destroy me. Accident in your car.
The mix of instruments being used on here is so eccentric.
When you fell in love.
Very nice use of piano on all of this album so far.
And I was glad that it didn't destroy you.
This sounds so neat. Okay, that was an extremely interesting song topic. I immediately was confused as to what exactly was literal on here and what wasn't, but it seems like pretty much everything is very blatantly literal. Other members of the band were in very dangerous situations before that almost led to their death, and it could have turned out a lot worse than it was. And essentially on this track, it seems like he's just talking about being glad that he didn't lose his bandmates and his friends. And it's pretty much just that simple, but at the same time, it's a very interesting song topic because you wouldn't expect this point of view, I guess. There's just interestingly worded ways of putting this. You know, while being happy about having your friends and being happy they're okay and everything isn't necessarily a super unique concept in and of itself, the way that this is phrased and put together is very unique and interesting. I also do like how eccentric and weird the instrumental and production was going on in there. It was a strangely mixed and put together song for sure, but it did kind of have a very bright, magical sounding kind of quality to it that a lot of the previous stuff on here has had, but it also had this kind of darker sounding part of it, and it's almost just taking such a light tone on a dark topic. It's sort of an ironic telling of that very thing, and I think that might have been the intended way for it to come off, which is also a really interesting way to go about making a song like this. Buggin is the name of track number 5, which we went from Spiderbite to Buggin. Kind of tying together, maybe? Ah, the good old fly sounds. I love it when a song uses that. Makes me slightly uncomfortable, but I'm sure that's what it's supposed to do. Okay, I'm getting REM vibes here. Backing vocals coming in, sounds really nice. That bass line. Nice. Okay. Fly sounds making me uncomfortable nonetheless. This song is about comparing bugs to love, which is such a weird concept, but I kind of love it. Kind of love it a little bit. Kind of hate it a little bit just because I don't like thinking about bugs. But either way, it is a very interesting metaphor, and it's kind of one of the most lighthearted ones we've seen on here yet, which kind of makes me glad that it had such a bright rock tune sound to it. Like I said, I was getting REM vibes on there. It did kind of have that 80s, 90s classic rock kind of vibe thing. You know the one. You just do. A little bit less experimental than some of the stuff on there, but also sampling fly noises. So it's at least a little weird. What is the Light is the name of the next song, and this is the one with the incredibly long parenthesis part. An untested hypothesis suggesting that the chemical in our brains, that's in brackets, in our brains, by which we are able to experience the sensation of being in love is the same chemical that caused the Big Bang, that was the birth of the accelerating universe. Holy shit. That is like scientific Fall Out Boy level title. Patrick Stump was a scientist instead of a scene kid, dude. I mean, obviously it's kind of tying into how we've been talking about love on the last song and that sort of thing. The last one, the parentheses are the buzz of love is busy bugging you, which is kind of the conclusion we came to anyways. I'm interested to see what the hell they do with that title though, so let's go. What's the Light? What is the Light? Steady rhythm going on in here. I'm interested. Kind of spooky sounding.
Something glowing
Nice. Okay. Picking up a little bit. Oh shit, that just transitions into the next one seamlessly. Just keeps up the same drum rhythm. I didn't know the song ended. So, this song kind of takes a tone that unfortunately reminds me of all of the like cheesy posts you'll see where it's like, you're made out of the same particles that were in stars at one point, or something to that degree. And I happen to believe more of what this title is saying than those. I believe the fact that you're made out of stars supposedly is just factually incorrect. I don't know the truth to the sentiment of the title either, but that's just kind of what it reminded me of. The song itself, though, is a really neat concept. It's kind of messing with the way that we perceive the world around us and what is just chemical reactions going on in our brain. You've got serotonin and whatnot just affecting your perception of the world around you, and what's actually real thought and free will versus a chemical reaction happening in your brain to make you feel or think you feel a certain way. At least that's what I'm gathering from it. The thing about this is I just don't know where we're going in terms of like putting this album together as a whole. It seemed in the beginning to be very much so about unique ideas and having innovative things happen and being a important person creating things with important ideas. Innovation, I guess, it seemed like what the beginning of this album was about. But then it's kind of talking about love now, some other things. I don't know if we're just taking like a variety of topics and putting them all on one album. Either way though, it's got a very consistent sound, and it does kind of fall under this umbrella topic of like scientific things going on. You've got the whole Spiderbite Song, which doesn't really follow that necessarily, but it's also taking a somewhat observational tone to the factual things that were going on, even though you would think that it'd be more emotive than it was. It kind of seems like this album is a little bit obsessed with science, if that makes any sense, which is cool. It's fascinating. I mean, it's coming up with some great song topics, and every song on here has been very unique for what it is. And The Observer is the song that I had just let it transition into. It's apparently an instrumental. It's a rather long one, don't get me wrong, but if I don't necessarily have anything super intriguing to comment on it, since there's not really anything in the way of lyrics going on, we're just going to let it play through the next one. So we'll see how that goes. Very ominous sounding, much like parts of the last track. On the last track, this sound felt like it was representing the void of space where these chemicals would have came from. And now it kind of seems like we're back there in this void of space. I really like the haunting nature to this track and the way that it just sounds very out there. We're getting vocals now. Just had to check and make sure the next song didn't start. I want to see how this transitions real quick. Not at all! I was kind of hoping, since those last two songs transitioned so well into each other, it would just be like this seamless bridge between three tracks, but whatever, man. I'll take the first two. So like I said, very atmospheric and interesting track. Much darker all the way through than anything we've seen on the album. Like I said, it did reminisce the earlier tones of the track before it for sure. It's just that this one stayed in the darker natured portion of the track rather than sounding much brighter towards the end or anything to that degree. And my neighbor is mowing. Wonderful. I'm almost wondering if, since the first half of this album sounded so bright, upbeat, and cheery, if this is any kind of a turning point in the album since we are halfway through. But that's something that we're going to find out in part 2 because, as I just said, we are halfway through. Waiting for a Superman will be the next track that we cover. Check back tomorrow for that video and it will be up. It will be linked right here next to my head if it is already up here on the channel, so you can click it there. It's also linked in the description and comments as well. But do drop a like on the video if you liked what you saw today, and subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for more music related content coming your way. But that is just about going to wrap it up for this one, and I will see you in part 2.